Family histories often hold unexpected and emotional stories. Scarlett Johansson encountered one such story during her participation in the Finding Your Roots series. She learned about her great grandfather, Saul Schlomberg, who immigrated to America seeking a better life. However, the journey revealed a heartbreaking fate for the relatives he left behind in Poland. This story is not just about Scarlett's past, it's about the resilience and strength of her family through unimaginable hardships.
Please welcome Scarlett Johansson.
Let me go.
No. Please, no.
It's
Scarlett Johansson knew her mother's family came from Jewish communities in Eastern Europe. This intrigued her, especially stories about her great-grandfather, Saul Schlomberg. She often wondered about his life before coming to America and the experiences he had during that time. In 1910, at the age of 24, Saul Schlomberg immigrated to America. He arrived in New York with almost no money and no family to support him. Starting fresh in a new country was daunting, but Saul was determined to build a better life. He soon found a job in a grocery store on New York's Lower East Side, selling bananas to make ends meet. Scarlett often thought about what drove Saul to leave his homeland and embark on such a risky journey. She reflected on how difficult it must have been to leave everything behind, stepping into the unknown with only the hope of a better future. His story was not just about seeking opportunities, but also about escaping the hardships of life in Poland. Saul's journey was typical of the immigrant experience at that time. He came from Gryec, a small town in what is now Poland. Life there was harsh, especially for Jewish families facing discrimination and limited opportunities. Saul's decision to leave was influenced by these harsh realities, seeking a place where he could build a secure and prosperous life. Scarlett's curiosity about Saul extended beyond his immigration story. She wanted to know more about the family he left behind. What happened to them? Did they face the same struggles? These questions became more poignant as she learned about the fate of her relatives during World War II. While Saul managed to create a new life in America, his brother Moish stayed in Poland. This decision had devastating consequences. When Hitler's armies invaded Poland in 1939, the Jewish community in Gryec, including Moish and his family, faced unimaginable horrors. Many were killed or sent to the Warsaw Ghetto, where conditions were dire. The contrast between Saul's new life in America and the fate of his brother's family was striking. While Saul worked hard to build a future, his relatives in Poland faced persecution and death. This knowledge brought a deep sense of sorrow and connection to Scarlett, making her feel even more rooted in her family's history and the resilience they displayed in the face of such adversity. Next, let's explore Saul's challenging journey to America. In 1910, at the age of 24, Saul Schlomberg decided to leave his homeland and immigrate to America. His journey was filled with uncertainty and hope. Arriving in New York with almost no money, Saul was alone in the new country, surrounded by unfamiliar faces and a language he barely understood. Life in New York was tough for Saul from the beginning. The bustling city was very different from the small town he'd left behind in Poland. With no family or friends to rely on, Saul faced the challenge of building a new life from scratch. The Lower East Side, where he settled, was crowded with immigrants, all struggling to find their place. Saul's first job was in a small grocery store on the Lower East Side. It was hard work, but he was grateful for the opportunity. He spent long hours selling bananas and other fruits, trying to save every penny he earned. The pay was meager, but it was a start. The conditions in the grocery store were far from ideal. The cramped space was filled with the constant hustle of customers, the noise of the street outside, and the smell of fresh produce. Despite these challenges, Saul persevered. His determination and resilience were evident as he adapted to his new environment and learned the ropes of his job. Saul's days were long and exhausting. He woke up early to open the store and stayed late to close up. His hands were rough from handling produce, and his feet ached from standing all day. Yet he never complained. Saul's spirit remained unbroken, fueled by the hope of a better future. The Lower East Side was not just a place of struggle for Saul. It was also a melting pot of cultures and traditions. He met people from various backgrounds, each with their own stories of hardships and dreams of success. These interactions enriched Saul's experience and helped him feel less alone in his journey. Saul's hard work in the grocery store eventually paid off. He managed to save a small amount of money, which gave him a sense of stability and hope. He began to dream of a brighter future, one where he could possibly own his own business and build a life of security and comfort. Saul Schlomberg's immigration journey was marked by immense challenges and perseverance. His story shows the strength and determination of countless immigrants who left everything behind to seek a better life in America. Scarlett's reflections show how deeply Saul's journey impacted her. Scarlett Johansson often thought about the immense hardships her great-grandfather, Saul Schlomberg, must have faced when he left everything behind to come to America. The idea of a young man, only 24 years old, stepping into the unknown with almost nothing, deeply moved her. She reflected on how daunting and terrifying it must have been for him to say goodbye to his family and homeland, not knowing if he would ever see them again. Saul's journey was filled with uncertainty and risk. He arrived in New York with no money and no support system. The bustling city was overwhelming, and Saul had to navigate the new world on his own. Scarlett thought about the emotional strength it must have taken for Saul to push through each day, driven by the hope of a better life. Working in a grocery store on the Lower East Side, Saul's days were long and grueling. Scarlett imagined him standing behind the counter, selling bananas and trying to save every penny he earned. The conditions were harsh, but Saul persevered. His determination to build a new life was stronger than the hardships he faced. Scarlett felt a deep connection to Saul's story. She admired his courage and resilience, knowing that his sacrifices paved the way for the opportunities she had today. Saul's story was not just one of struggle, but also of hope and perseverance. He left everything he knew, chasing the dream of a better future, with no guarantees that it would work out. This journey was more than just a physical move. It was an emotional and mental challenge. The fear of the unknown, the loneliness, and the constant struggle to make ends meet were burdens Saul carried every day. Scarlett's heart ached for the young man who had to endure so much, yet remained hopeful and determined. Saul's journey reminded Scarlett of the strength and resilience that runs in her family. It made her appreciate the sacrifices her ancestors made and the challenges they overcame. The emotional weight of his story was heavy, but it was also inspiring. Scarlett knew that without Saul's bravery and determination, her life would be very different. Reflecting on Saul's journey, Scarlett felt a mix of sadness and gratitude. His story was a powerful reminder of the human spirit's capacity to endure and strive for a better life, despite overwhelming odds. It made her proud of her heritage and the legacy of strength and resilience that her great-grandfather left behind. While Saul found hope, Moshe's family faced devastating consequences. While Saul Schlomberg was building a new life in America, his brother Moshe stayed behind in Poland. This decision led to tragic consequences. On September 1, 1939, Hitler's armies invaded Poland, marking the beginning of a dark and devastating period for the Jewish community. Grejec, the small town where Moshe and his family lived, was not spared. The Nazi invasion brought fear and terror to the residents. The Jewish population faced immediate persecution. By late February 1942, almost all of Grejec's Jewish residents had either been killed or transported to the Warsaw Ghetto. The Warsaw Ghetto was a place of immense suffering. Over 400,000 Jews were crammed into an area less than 2 square miles. The conditions were inhumane. People faced constant hunger and disease. Every day, dozens died from starvation or illness. The ghetto was overcrowded, and the lack of food and medical supplies made survival nearly impossible. Moshe and his family were among those forced into the Warsaw Ghetto. He and his wife had 10 children. The youngest, Zlata, was only 14 years old. The family was torn apart by the cruel conditions. They were loaded onto trains like cattle, not knowing their fate. The separation was heart-wrenching, and many families never saw each other again. Scarlett Johansson was deeply moved when she learned about the fate of her relatives. The stark contrast between Saul's new life in America and the horrors faced by his brother's family in Poland was overwhelming. Moshe's children, including Zlata and Mondel, perished in the Warsaw Ghetto. Their deaths were a tragic end to a story of resilience and survival. The loss of Moishe's family was a painful reminder of the brutal reality of the Holocaust. For Scarlett, this revelation brought a profound sense of sorrow and connection to her heritage. She felt the weight of their suffering and the immense loss her family endured. Now let's look closer at the harrowing experiences of Moishe's family. Moish, Saul Schlomberg's brother, stayed in Poland with his wife and their 10 children. The youngest of his children was a girl named Zlata, who was only 14 years old. Life was already difficult for Jewish families in Poland, but things took a horrific turn when the Nazis invaded in 1939. Moish and his family were forced out of their home and transported to the Warsaw Ghetto. The journey was brutal. They were packed into trains like cattle, with no idea where they were being taken. The fear and uncertainty were overwhelming, especially for the young children. The Warsaw Ghetto was a nightmare. Over 400,000 Jews were all crammed into an area of less than 2 square miles. The living conditions, horrific. There was hardly any food, and people were starving. Disease spread quickly in the overcrowded and unsanitary conditions. Every day, dozens of people died from hunger or illness. Moishe and his family struggled to survive in this hellish place. The ghetto was surrounded by walls and guarded by soldiers, making escape impossible. They were cut off from the outside world, living in constant fear of deportation or extermination camps. Zlata, the youngest, faced unimaginable hardships. The lack of food and medical care made every day a fight for survival. The family tried to stay together, but the conditions made it difficult. Many families were separated, never to see each other again. Scarlett Johansson learned about the horrors her relatives endured in the Warsaw Ghetto. The stories of starvation, disease, and the constant threat of death were heart-wrenching. Moishe's family, including young Zlata, perished in these dire conditions. Their lives were cut short by the unimaginable cruelty of the Holocaust. This part of Scarlett's family history brought immense sorrow. The connection between Saul's new life in America and the tragic fate of his brother's family was stark. It highlighted the brutal reality of the Holocaust and the immense suffering endured by millions of Jews. Scarlett felt a deep connection to her relatives' pain and resilience. The story of Moishe and his family was a reminder of the horrors of the past and the strength required to endure such suffering. The struggles in the Warsaw Ghetto were severe, but the fate of Moishe's children was even more heartbreaking. Moishe's family faced a tragic end in the Warsaw Ghetto. His 10 children, each with their own dreams and hopes, were caught in the horrors of the Holocaust. The youngest, Zlata, was only 14 years old. Her life, like her siblings, was marked by unimaginable suffering. The conditions in the ghetto were brutal. Food was scarce, and disease spread quickly in the overcrowded area. Zlata, along with her brothers and sisters, struggled every day just to survive. The family did their best to stay together, but the harsh conditions made it nearly impossible. One by one, Moishe's children succumbed to the terrible conditions. Zlata, aged just 15, and her brother Mondel, aged 17, died in the Warsaw Ghetto. The exact circumstances of their deaths are unknown, but the records show that they perished there. The rest of the children faced similar fates, either dying from starvation, disease, or being transported to extermination camps. Scarlett Johansson was deeply affected when she learned about the fate of her relatives. The knowledge that her great-grandfather's family endured such horrific suffering brought her immense sorrow. The stark reality of their lives in the ghetto, contrasted with Saul's efforts to build a new life in America, was overwhelming. Scarlett's emotional reaction was profound. She felt a deep connection to her family's past and the immense pain they endured. The realization that young Zlata, just a teenager, and her siblings faced such brutal ends was heartbreaking. Scarlett's empathy for her relatives' suffering brought tears to her eyes. Learning about Moishe's children's tragic fate gave Scarlett a deeper understanding of her heritage. It wasn't just a story of survival, but one of immense loss and pain. The emotional weight of this knowledge was heavy, making her appreciate even the resilience and strength of her ancestors. Scarlett's reflections on this part of her family history were filled with sorrow and reverence. The stories of Zlata, Mondel, and their siblings suffering in the Warsaw Ghetto highlighted the human cost of the Holocaust. The loss deeply affected Scarlett, showing her profound connection to her past. When Scarlett Johansson discovered the tragic past of her family, it deeply moved her. Learning about the intense suffering her relatives endured during the Holocaust was heartbreaking. The contrast between her great-grandfather Saul's new life in America and the horrors faced by his family in Poland was stark and overwhelming. Scarlett felt a profound sense of sorrow as she reflected on the fate of her great-grandfather's brother Moish and his children. She thought about the young lives lost, like Zlata, who was only 15 years old. The brutal conditions in the Warsaw Ghetto, the starvation, and the disease that claimed their lives weighed heavily on her heart. The emotional impact was significant. Scarlett felt a deep connection to her roots and the unimaginable struggles her family went through. The realization that while Saul was working hard to build a new future in America, her brother's family was enduring unimaginable pain and suffering in Poland was a painful revelation. Scarlett's reflections on this part of her history brought tears to her eyes. She could hardly believe the stark differences in their lives. While Saul faced challenges in a new country, he still had opportunities and a chance for a better life. Meanwhile, Moish's family faced persecution and death. This knowledge brought a deeper understanding of her heritage. Scarlett felt the weight of her struggles and the strength it took to survive such a dark time. It made her appreciate the resilience of her ancestors even more. Their sacrifices and suffering were now a part of her story, and she felt a duty to honor their memory. Scarlett's emotional journey through this discovery was filled with sadness and reflection. She realized the importance of remembering and sharing these stories. They were not just stories of loss, but also of immense courage and resilience. Scarlett felt a renewed connection to her past and a deeper appreciation for the life she has today. The emotional impact of learning about her family's tragic past was profound. It was a reminder of the horrors of history and the strength of the human spirit. Scarlett Johansson's reflections on her family's suffering brought her closer to her roots and highlighted the enduring legacy of her ancestors' resilience. Scarlett's reflections highlight the broader significance of uncovering family histories. Uncovering lost stories, like those of Scarlett Johansson's family, does more than just reveal individual resilience. It shows the strength and endurance of the entire human community. These stories connect us to our past and help us understand who we are today. When we learn about the hardships our ancestors faced, we see the courage and determination they needed to survive. This knowledge can be empowering. It reminds us that despite the challenges, we have the strength to overcome obstacles. Remembering these stories can give us a sense of pride and resilience. Scarlett's discovery of her family's tragic past during the Holocaust is a powerful example. The suffering and loss her relatives endured highlight the brutal reality of history. But their story also shows the incredible strength of the human spirit. Their resilience in the face of unimaginable horrors is a testament to the endurance of our ancestors. Remembering and honoring past tragedies is crucial. It helps us understand our present identities and the struggles that shaped our families. These stories are not just about loss and pain. They're also about survival and hope. They teach us important lessons about the human experience and the need to stand against injustice. Scarlett's reflections on her family's history brought her closer to her roots. It made her appreciate the sacrifices made by her ancestors and the resilience they showed. This connection to the past is vital for everyone. It helps us understand where we come from and the strength that lies within us. By uncovering these lost stories, we also honor those who suffered and perished. It ensures that their lives and experiences are not forgotten. This act of remembrance is a way to pay tribute to their bravery and resilience. Scarlett's journey through her family history is a reminder of the importance of these stories. They're a part of our collective heritage and shape our understanding of the world. Learning about our past helps us to build a better future, one that honors the sacrifices of those who came before us. In remembering and sharing these stories, we strengthen the bonds within our communities. We acknowledge the pain and suffering endured by many and celebrate the resilience and courage that define us as a human family. Learning about our roots can bring sorrow, but it also deepens our connection to personal and shared histories. These stories remind us of our ancestors' resilience and help us understand who we are today. If Scarlett Johansson's story moved you, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe for more heartfelt insights into the lives of your favorite celebrities.